This NFL season has been so wild with tons of storylines, and nobody could have predicted some of the things that have happened. And I just have a feeling that the playoffs could be even crazier. The commissioner himself called me up the other day and said, "Spencer, I'm going to give you the script to this year's playoffs. Just be sure not to share it with anyone."
Psych!
Now quickly, before we hop into the rest of the video, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe and hit that bell. It only takes 5 seconds and your support truly does mean the world. Alright, now back to what's going to happen in this year's playoffs. Starting over in the AFC, we have a very interesting matchup between the Houston Texans and Cleveland Browns. These two teams met just a few weeks ago in Week 16 in Houston, and the Browns absolutely destroyed the Texans, who were without star rookie QB CJ Stroud by a score of 36-22. The score seems a little bit closer than the game was itself because of a couple garbage time touchdowns by the Texans. But if you saw any highlights from the game, you know this was complete dominance, and wide receiver Amari Cooper set a franchise record with 265 yards along with 2 touchdowns for Cleveland. The Texans had no answers for the Browns offense or defense, and their season was suddenly in question. Now these teams will face off again with Stroud under center for the Texans, and it should call for a much more exciting game. Stroud is the ultimate competitor who has performed on the biggest stage, but he's going up against arguably what is the best defense of the last decade, and the lack of playoff experience could be crucial. Now on the flip side, Joe Flacco has plenty of playoff experience, and just has to find a way to limit those turnovers for the Browns to be in control. So for me, the Browns will go on to beat the Texans to face the Ravens. Now let's head over to Kansas City, where it is going to be an absolute icebox at Arrowhead Stadium. As if playing a game there isn't already hard enough for opposing teams, Tua and the Dolphins will stroll into a kickoff temperature of just 5 degrees. And honestly, I think it might be even lower than that. I saw the wind chill was going to be around -30. That is just crazy, and that will be the coldest game the Dolphins have ever played in. And bad news for Dolphins fans, they've lost 10 straight games in kickoff temperatures under 45 degrees. And that's just the bad news from a weather standpoint. While the Chiefs are definitely not performing up to the level that we all expect from them in the Mahomes and Reed era, the Dolphins aren't doing too hot themselves. After getting blown out by the Ravens 2 weeks ago, they blew their division title chance to the Bills on Sunday Night Football last week, and in the process suffered injuries to key defensive players like Jerome Baker, Bradley Chubb, and Xavier Howard. So even though the Chiefs and guys like Travis Kelce haven't looked like themselves for much of the season, they still should be able to handle a depleted Dolphins team in their home venue. At the end of the day, they still have Patrick Mahomes, who always has a little magic left in the tank. Heading north to the last of the 3 AFC wildcard games, where the Buffalo Bills host the Pittsburgh Steelers. This will be another frigid matchup with a temperature under 25 degrees and winds over 25 miles per hour. This will probably lead to a lot of run plays from both offenses, which isn't exactly great for both teams. The Bills allow almost 5 yards per carry against the run, and the Steelers will be without potential Defensive Player of the Year TJ Watt, which is a schematic nightmare. The Bills are coming into this arguably as the hottest team in the league right now, winning their last 5 games and claiming a division title. On the flip side, the Steelers are playing arguably their best football of the season too, with Mason Rudolph under center the last 3 weeks, giving them 3 solid performances, all leading to wins and sneaking them into that last playoff spot. The Steelers should get back safeties Minkah Fitzpatrick and Damontae Kazee this week, but will this be enough to overcome the loss of TJ Watt? The script says no, as the Steelers are just 1-10 in games without Watt. And now going up against the hottest team in the league, Josh Allen will make enough plays to make sure the Bills move on to the second round. Now over to the NFC, where we have some crazy playoff storylines, starting off with Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys welcoming his old team into town, the Green Bay Packers. It's been a year of exceeding expectations for the Packers in many eyes, as Jordan Love has had a great first full season as QB and has led this team to the playoffs. Love has found himself near the top of the leaderboard in a few categories, as he is 7th in yards and 2nd in passing touchdowns. As for the Cowboys, this is what is expected of them. Dak and McCarthy have struggled to get over the hump in their time in Dallas, and many are wondering if this is finally the year. So while the Packers are playing with house money, the Cowboys, who are led by stars like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, will be just too much for a young and inexperienced Packers team. Another huge coincidence is the Sunday night game this weekend, when the Los Angeles Rams, led by Matthew Stafford, travel to Detroit to take on Jared Goff and the Lions. The 2 QBs that were a part of the trade to send each other to each of these teams will now face off, and it's only fitting that the Lions' first home playoff game since 1994 will be against Stafford. As for the teams and the game itself, the Rams have been one of the best teams in the second half of the NFL season, with Williams leading their strong and tone-setting run game, with weapons like former Triple Crown winner Cooper Kupp and now all-time rookie receiving yard record holder Puka Nacua. The Lions have been an offensive juggernaut this season, with two amazing running backs in Jordan Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and they are led on the outside by Amon-Ra St. Brown and rookie tight end Sam Laporta. It just feels like this could finally be the Lions' year, and Dan Campbell has this group humming. So even though their defense has been suspect at times, I expect Campbell to make a gutsy call that will catch the Rams off guard and win them the game. The last game of Wildcard Weekend is a showdown between the NFC South winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Philadelphia Eagles. These two teams faced off earlier in the year on Monday Night Football, and the Eagles won the game handedly 25-11. But these two teams are playing a lot differently than they were in that Week 3 matchup. The Eagles have been on a major skid, losing 5 of their last 6 games, with the only win coming against the Giants. Their defense has been getting absolutely shredded, and their offense has been searching for a breakthrough for quite some time. So while Baker Mayfield might play inconsistent football, the team as a whole is in a much better place, and I think the Bucs defense keeps the Eagles in check and they move on to the second round. And speaking of the second round, now it's time to get into some of my second round predictions. So starting off with the face-off between two AFC North teams, the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. These two teams split the season series, with the first game being a 28-3 win for the Ravens, as the Browns had to start rookie QB DTR, and the second game being a thrilling 33-31 win for the Browns, where Deshaun Watson played with a broken shoulder. The Ravens have been absolutely humming since, and have taken down and dominated some of the league's best teams, but the Browns have also been playing some amazing football, with veteran QB Joe Flacco back under center and leading the charge, along with their historically good defense. If there was ever a team to match up and be able to take down this Ravens team, it's the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens have had almost 3 weeks off of playing some starters, and Lamar has never really played well in the postseason. On the flip side, Flacco has a ton of playoff experience, and if he is able to limit turning the ball over, then the Ravens will have to play a near perfect game against this defense. So with that being said, there will be a major upset in Baltimore in round 2, as the Browns will advance to the AFC Championship. While these next two teams aren't in the same division, they sure are familiar with each other. The Bills and Chiefs will face off for what should be another amazing game between the two teams. We all remember that insane game they played a few years ago in the playoffs that had a Super Bowl feeling to it. Now they will face off in Buffalo, and I think this game will likely turn out how it did earlier in the year back in Week 13 when the Bills won 20-17. Both QBs had thrown an interception, and there were a lot less points than people expected. I have a feeling this is the same case here in this matchup, and while Kadarius Toney might not make a crucial mistake and cost the Chiefs a late score, I do think Buffalo will still be the hotter team coming into the matchup, and the Chiefs simply don't have the offensive firepower to keep up with the red-hot Bills. In the NFC, we get a highly anticipated matchup between the Detroit Lions and Dallas Cowboys. In Week 17, the two teams faced off in a primetime showdown, which came down to the final possession for the Lions, and due to some officiating controversy, they would go on to lose 20-19. The Lions will be on the road again for this one, but the good news for them is that it's another dome where Goff performs well. The one wrinkle for the Cowboys all year has been that their run defense has not been up to their standard, and teams like the Niners and Bills took major advantage of that when they played them. I think that the Lions will try to do the same in this matchup, and Jared Goff will only have to make the necessary throws he has to in an effort to limit his turnovers. The Cowboys offense will have to find a way to continuously score against this wavering Lions defense, and more specifically secondary. CeeDee Lamb will probably have another huge game like he did a few weeks ago, but I think the Lions will stick around long enough and find a way to get a lead in the fourth quarter and run the clock out on the Cowboys. And Dallas's drought of not making it out of the second round will continue. This leaves the Bucs and the Niners as the last matchup of the divisional round, and I think this will be complete domination from the Niners. The Bucs will have to travel all the way out west, and Baker will face off against one of the best defenses in the league, which will be a lot different from their matchup against the Eagles. While the Bucs can maybe keep the score close for the first half, I think that the Niners will pull away in the second half, and CMC will open up a big lead and they will never look back. Even if Purdy doesn't play his best football or even has a turnover or two, the Niners should have no problem winning this game and advancing to the NFC Championship. Alright, now for conference championship time. These are going to be some of the best games we've seen all year. The Bills will host the Browns in a heavyweight battle that could be the Browns' toughest test defensively all year. While they took care of Lamar and the Ravens, Allen is a much better and stronger passer than Lamar, and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis will do a much better job of stretching the field. The Browns will also be able to move the ball a decent amount as they have a great offensive balance, and Flacco was basically kind of made for these underdog road playoff games where he finds a way to hang around and win the game. But this time, I don't think he's able to pull off the upset. The Bills play great at home, and Allen is hungry to finally get a crack at the Lombardi. And as good as Flacco has been all year for the Browns, he has turned the ball over a good amount, and I think he throws one too many interceptions for them to overcome. Out west, the Niners will welcome the Lions into town in hopes of getting a win and heading back to the Super Bowl. But as the great Lee Corso is known for saying on College Game Day, not so fast, my friend. While Jared Goff is much better at home, Goff is from an area of California that is just an hour away from San Fran, and he played college ball in Cali. I think that this homecoming style game is able to propel Goff into another mode, and he plays one of the best games of his career. If there's an area where the Lions will have to attack this Niners defense, it will be through the air, and I think they do so. This will be a must as the Niners offense will be able to score points against the Lions defense, but I think it comes down to a Brock Purdy interception that will have many critiques questioning if he can perform at the biggest of stages. The Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl. Alright, now for Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Can it get any bigger than this? The Lions are just one of 4 teams that have never made it to the Super Bowl, and the Bills are still looking for their first Super Bowl win after losing all 4 of their previous attempts. Tension and urgency will be at an all-time high, and I think that this will create the biggest question to the game. Who will be able to handle the pressure the best? Both head coaches will have their players all fired up, but who can handle their emotions better? Both teams want to run their offense through their run game and win in the trenches, but both QBs will have to make the necessary throws and plays in order to bring home that Lombardi back to their city. Ironically enough, in a game with the most pressure, this game will include 2 QBs with the most turnovers in the league the past few years. And in the end, I think it's Josh Allen that does a better job of taking care of the ball in this one. Allen's ability to extend plays and use his legs will be crucial when Aiden Hutchinson is bearing down on him. A late interception for the Bills defense will seal the deal, and the Buffalo Bills will finally be bringing the Lombardi Trophy back to Buffalo for their oh so passionate fans.